Hi everyone, I welcome you to the class, and today we will be discussing about a new unit which is business marketing channels, right. So, one of the most important things in any business is how would you know sell your product, or how would you make your product available to the customer. So, channels are those are those distributors or tributaries, you can say, or those partners who help in reaching the product to the final end customer, right. So, how do business market channels differ from the customer or consumer market channels? That also we will discuss, and along with it we will discuss the other characteristics in the business marketing channels. Okay. So, when we talk about marketing channel, the definition says that it is something is defined as a set of interdependent organizations. Now, there are several organizations who are all who have joined hands with each other, or who are helping each other, right, that help in making the product or service finally available, or it reaches to the customers through them, right. In other words, the link between the manufacturer and the customer is a channel of distribution, right. So, sometimes it is called as distribution channel, trade channel, and as you can see in this picture, in this figure, right, there is now 24 hours, you are connected in this today's global world, right. When you are you are working in a the whole world has become one globe, right, or one market. So, everybody has to be connected, and when it is so, you can see that direct selling, retail facilities, telemarketing, distance, all these e-commerce facilities have to be there, have to be connected, so that the product is rightly or available to the customer at the right time and whenever he or she desires it. So, this is very important, because if a product is well made but and it is priced also rightly, but suppose the product is not available, then how would the customer avail the product, how would the customer buy the product. So, that is why reaching the customer, right, is a very important thing. Reaching the customer is very important, and that plays a vital role. Now, the question is, how it is not about reaching the customer. Reaching the customer may be in the most economic manner, right, most economic manner or most effective manner, right. So, there might be several ways of reaching the customer, but what is most economical, right, because if your cost of transportation, cost of logistics increases, automatically that will that will go as a loss to the manufacturer or the seller, right. So, what is the most effective way of reaching to the customer? We will discuss all these things today. The question is, should a manufacturer use intermediaries? Now, intermediaries, again we will say that there is a manufacturer, there is a customer, and in between there is somebody called the intermediary. So, is this intermediary even required? Does the manufacturer require to pass through the intermediary to reach the customer, or he can directly bypass and reach the customer? The question is here. Now, if the manufacturer could reach the customer directly, no doubt it is beneficial, because it will save lot of money and energy. But is it all the time possible? May not be, right. Why? Because the manufacturer might not have so much of capacity to geographically establish itself, reach to different places, at different time zones. So, there are challenges that the manufacturer has to face. Maybe the manufacturer may not have marketing knowledge, it is only a good manufacturer. So, there can be several issues that the manufacturer can face, right, and that is why the question is, should they use intermediaries? Now, that answer is not so easy, it will depend on a few factors. Okay. So, let us see, it depends. Now, it depends on what? A manufacturer should ask what marketing functions, such as let us say quick delivery or extremely good service, which is more critically important to the success of the marketing strategy. Now, different kinds of products or services will have different requirements. For example, some products will have a edge if it can be delivered quickly, right, some perishable items, or let us say some kind of chemicals or something. A quick delivery is very important, and certain other products may demand a very high level of service. Now, which is more important for your case or for the manufacturer's case is something that the manufacturer should first realize and try to understand. Now, which of these functions involves a weakness in the firm? Now, in these functions that the marketer or the manufacturer feels is important. Now, which of this is one where it is important, but the manufacturer does not have the strength, or it is not, it does not have the know-how or the capacity to reach to the or to satisfy the customer in those terms. That means, for example, as we said, quick delivery. Now, for that you need a very strong logistical support or infrastructural support. Now, if the, let us say, the manufacturer does not have it, then that is a weakness we can consider. So, the manufacturer in that case has to depend on some outside support. If such weaknesses exist, can these critical functions be performed efficiently and cost effectively by an outside agent? So, the question is, if such weaknesses are existing, let us say, for example, reaching the customer, maybe promoting the product to your customers, right. So, there are several activities, for example, how fast you can reach the market, what kind of credit risk facilities you are able to take. Now, how would you ensure that the product is well promoted? Now, all these different things may be required to market a product, but can the manufacturer do it? And in the case of B2B, when we are talking about B2B are very different kind of products and services. So, here the customer, the marketer knows that the customer is a very rational customer, and he needs to understand, and he has to be explained very clearly about the product. So, in that case, does the manufacturer or the service provider have that ability? If it does not have the ability, it is better to go for an outside agent. So, in that case, an intermediary becomes a very critical partner in the whole show. Why selecting a channel design is challenging? Why is it challenging? What's so great about it? What's so difficult about it? Okay. The first thing it starts with is there are so many different alternatives. Now, for example, today you talk about channels, for example, telemarketing, internet, or through the internet, or you can e-commerce, or you can directly reach through your distributors, your brokers. So many different people are involved in the process. So, you have different options, and in each option you have several members, right. Now, which member and which option you want to choose? Now, that is something is very challenging, because that might require a lot of calculation, right. You need to understand which is the most effective channel partner maybe. So, the alternatives are numerous. So, and you may have to pick up maybe one or two. So, how do you pick that one or two? Marketing goals differ between the channel members. Now, you see, there are several channel members. Now, somebody, let us say you have a distributor, you have a broker, you have some kind of commission merchants. Now, who are these people, and what kind of goals do they have? Now, for example, there might be two distributors, distributor 1 and distributor 2, and both these distributors may have different goals for themselves. So, the marketing goals are different. This member may try to reach more people and play at a high volume case, and this distributor may try to reach to lower number of people, but try to give more effective services. Different segments may require different channels. Now, if you look at from a product perspective, now the product may be sold to different segments in the market, right. Your target segments may be different, right. So, in basis of the target segments, maybe the channel will differ. For example, let us say there is a segment, there is a high volume segment and a low volume segment. Now, for a high volume segment, you may have to have a very effective logistical partner, and for a low volume segment, you may have to make a little bit of compromise, right, because you may go for a channel partner or a logistical partner who is not very who is, let us say, who is chosen on basis of the lowest cost. But in the other case, when it is a high product or high volume case, you may have to have a logistical partner who may be very alert and be effective in providing the service to the customers, right. And then what kind of technology, or even the functioning style of the customer is, that is also important, because if a company wants to make to stock policy, has a make to stock policy or a make to order policy. Now, the question is, if it is a make to order policy, he will require huge volumes, and it does not matter, but somebody has a make to stock policy. So, he will require the just in time kind of a situation. So, in those cases, what kind of channels would be required? Business marketing environment constantly is changing, right? So today, if you look at 10 years back, so there were a lot of telemarketing companies, direct marketing companies through, let's say, internet and all. But slowly, what has taken over is e-commerce in a big way, and the market also, the business market is slowly changing. Now companies are playing on a in a different, maybe the goals, their objectives, their strategies are changing with time, and competition is becoming very stiff day by day. So maybe players are playing at a very thin margin, right, wafer thin margins. So they are playing at high volume low profit kind of a situation, or it can be on a product where the company is going for a make to stock order policy, where it says I will only make when the order I receive the order. So at that point of time, the channel, the producer, the marketer, sorry, the manufacturer can produce the product at a premium and sell to the customer at a premium, because he is making some customized products for the customer. Okay, customer requirements are changing, and internet is completely changing the whole way business is being done, right? So today, if you look at all the big B2B houses, for example, you talk about India Mart, you talk about Amazon Business, you talk about Flipkart Wholesale, there are Alibaba. So many different players have come in, right? And the way business is being done, and at least in the B2B space, right, where the role of social media, where the role of direct mails is becoming very high. So internet has cut down the drastically the time, and the time, ordering time and everything, and it has become made things very fast. Okay, and even the managing the inventory and everything has become more easier, right? So types of business marketing channels and participants. So what are the different, we understood the challenges that the manufacturer has to face while selecting a channel member. Now what are the different business marketing channels? We will see that. Now if you look, there is a manufacturer right here, and the manufacturer can have two lines of channel. One is direct, right, and there is indirect. Now in direct channel, if you can see, we have direct sales, where you try to reach your customer directly, try to understand their requirements, their problems, their what kind of solutions they require, and you can suggest them some product, and maybe you can pick a order out of it, right? So direct sales is very helpful in this B2B market, and we have studied earlier also about it. Then you have online marketing, where online marketing, in the sense we are talking about, where the company can do a direct email strategy user, or where you can maybe the orders can be placed using a e-commerce website, right? So for example, as I said, Udan, India Mart and all these companies, they are big e-commerce companies today who are in the online space, and they have completely changed the way B2B marketing is being done today, right? They have aggregated millions of vendors and suppliers and all in their website, and in their website database, and they have changed the way marketing is done. Marketing has become very fast today, and everything can be available at one virtual marketplace, like as I said, Amazon Business. Then you have telemarketing, which is still important, but it has slowly lost, is losing out, because e-commerce is nearly becoming the most used platform, you can say. In indirect channels, you have industrial distributors, manufacturer representatives and other participants, right? So all these, they are dependent on what kind of customer segments you are targeting. Okay. Now as I said, direct channel, in direct channel structures, the manufacturers performs all the functions or the tasks necessary to create sales and to deliver the product to their customers. Okay. So direct sales, as I have been explaining, direct sales where you reach the customer directly and understand their problem. So suppose let us say a company wants to sell some products, right, some lab instruments to the to IIT Roorkee, then in that case they would directly try to reach to the professors, talk to the technicians or the technical people, and try to understand what is the requirement of IIT Roorkee, and then they can maybe place an order accordingly. Then you have, as I said, direct marketing through mail, telephone, which is also a big thing in the B2B space, because direct mail helps you to reach many people at the same time and instantly at the same time, and helps you in creating maybe your potential customers, creating your lead generation and all. So, by that, direct marketing has become possible due to this internet and all these things. And telephonic also, as I said, you can, companies try to reach, for example, financial companies, they try to reach to the customers through their, through telephonic systems and all, and try to talk to their customers and try to create potential customers. E-commerce, as I had already said. So, these are some direct channel partners who are very effective. Now, when is direct channel suitable? Direct channel is suitable when these conditions are given. So, first is when the value of each transaction is large. It is good to go for direct distribution or direct channel when the transaction volume is large. Okay. So, you can avail benefits because you can compare, you can see which partner is, or which channel partner is giving what kind of benefits and all. So, one can easily look at that. Okay. The selling includes extensive technical and commercial negotiations at various levels, including top management. Now, what it means is direct channel is suitable when, there is a lot of technical and commercial negotiation. So, if there is a lot of discussion has to happen regarding maybe the, the design of the product, the price of the product, the kind of service that you are looking for. So, if a lot of negotiation is required and the company, the buyer, let us say IIT Roorkee is the buyer. Now, IIT Roorkee wants to know what is the kind of support I will get from these suppliers or these vendors. So, in those cases, directly meeting the supplier, or directly, a direct interaction between the buyer and the seller, or the manufacturer and the buyer, right, is very essential, right. So, they can understand each other very well. The buying process is lengthy. Suppose the buying process is very long, it is a 2-year, 3-year period. So, if you go through intermediaries, it won't work. It is better to go to the customer directly, reach the customer directly and understand their emotions, their necessities and all. And finally, the business buyer insists on buying directly from the manufacturer. So, sometimes buyers would, insist on buying directly from the manufacturer, because for the simple reason they know that if I directly buy from the manufacturer and do not go through any intermediary, I can save a lot of cost. Okay. So, because they can easily negotiate with the manufacturer, and the manufacturer knowing that it is getting a large amount of business and there is no intermediary required in between. So, they can, pass on the benefits to the buyer, right. So, in those cases, direct channel is essential and it is advisable, but all cases would not favor direct channel. So, in some cases intermediaries, the indirect channel is required. So, in indirect channel, what happens, intermediaries come into place. So, the manufacturer and the intermediaries together share the risk between them. Now, so what happens? So, there is now the manufacturer, there is the intermediary, and they both try to, so they both try to sell to the customer. So, sometimes it could be, like this, the manufacturer through the intermediaries to the customer, or the manufacturer directly to the customer also is possible. So, in indirect, what we will not, we will ignore this one, we will only go through the intermediary. So, what it says is, for example, independent dealers or distributors. One example of independent channel are independent dealers, distributors, right. So, who sometimes are called as the most important people, right, in any B2B business or industrial business, right. Now, why they are important? Because these people are powerhouse, they have lot of capacity, and they have lot of know-how, a local know-how in the marketplace. So, their reach to the customer becomes more effective, more easier in comparison when a company or a manufacturer tries to directly go into the local space. For example, try to understand. Just imagine you are at a place, let us say Maharashtra, right, and you are selling a product in a place which is, let us say in like Nagpur, right, or Nasik, or some the Vidarbha region, right. Now, if you go through directly a manufacturer, let us say SKF Bearing, now is the company which wants to sell to distributors, retailers in this space. So, if they want to directly go to the end customers, it would not be possible, right. So, here they would, it is better if they can select some distributors or dealers in some particular locations in those Vidarbha region, right, who are popular, who have a local know-how and they know the end customers very well, and the end customers also have a lot of faith and knowledge about these distributors. So, the sales automatically can become much easier and faster. So, independent dealers, distributors play a very vital role. Second is the manufacturer representative or sometimes called as sales agents. Now, these agents are again very important people, they play a very vital role. And then you have somebody like the commission merchants, jobbers, value added resellers, brokers, etc. And we will see each one of them after little later, right. How do intermediaries benefit the seller? The question is now, in an indirect channel, we are saying we have to route it through the intermediaries, right. So, how do these intermediaries help the seller or the, let us say, the manufacturer? Now, few things if you see, the intermediaries help in carrying the inventory first of all, right. If the manufacturer has produced, so the intermediaries takes responsibility of the inventory, then passes it on to the end customer, right. It shares the credit risk. Now, suppose sometimes certain customers need credit, right, and in credit, right. So, that facility can be provided by the intermediaries on their own behalf, okay. Then intermediaries plays a very, very vital role in forecasting the market needs, because they understand what is the market requirement, what is the knowledge of the customer, what is the customer's new requirements, what changes are happening in the customer needs. So, all this information is highly useful and which the intermediaries do have because of the localized knowledge, okay. Providing market information, as I said, any changes in the market immediately can be explained to the manufacturer through the intermediaries. Sharing the selling tasks. Now, that is also a that is one of the most vital roles that the intermediaries does. It helps in sharing the selling task, right. And then managing the logistics. So, how do we reach the customer, what kind of logistical arrangements have to be done. All these things are very important that the intermediaries help the seller in, right. But how does the intermediary help the buyer? Now, the buyer is the end customer, right. So, how does the intermediary help the buyer? The buyer gains through the intermediary in the sense that it gets a faster delivery. Now, if the buyer would have waited for the manufacturer, it is possible that the manufacturer has lot of customers and it may take a lot of time to reach to the to all the customers, right. So, some customers may get the products fast, some may not get. So, in those times when those customers do not get the product on time, it is a problem for them. So, here the intermediaries come to their rescue. So, since the intermediaries are people who are close to them, who are in their own local place, so they can get a faster delivery. Variety of products or product assortment is another example or another benefit that the buyer gets from the seller. So, the seller or the intermediary can provide different kinds of varieties of products to the buyers, okay. As I said, credit facility can be again one issue where the customer can be customer can get from the intermediaries. Assist in the buying decisions. So, the intermediary sometimes can understand the requirement of the end customer and what he exactly wants from the in his product or service, and he can suggest the buyer to take pick up the right product or service. Anticipate the need of the buyer and provide product information. So, and finally provide a good service to the buyer. So, all these different, if you see different features or facilities that the intermediary can provide to the buyers comes very handy and very essential, very helpful to the buyer, okay. So, suitability of indirect channel, if we see, it is appropriate when, as we said, the value of transaction or sales are low. That means, you need to go through an indirect route generally when the transactions are not of very high volume, right, or low value you can say. As because if it is for a very high value, then the company would like to, the buyer would like to directly reach the customer, the market manufacturer and maybe negotiate with it to reduce the price or something. Okay. The manufacturer has limited resources. The manufacturer, as I said, may not have the marketing resources, may not have the logistical resources to reach the customers. So, in that condition, in that case, it is better for the manufacturer to go through the intermediary, because a lot of, let us say one manufacturer and there are lots of customers, let us say customer C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6. So, if it reaches directly, just imagine, it becomes little tough, right. So, for this, let us say if it has one intermediary I1 and for this it has another intermediary I2. So, at least this through these two intermediaries, it becomes easier for them to reach the customer than what would have happened had they tried it directly. So, that is a challenge. Okay. The business buyers are widely dispersed. So, the buyers are, as we know, they can be scattered around. Now, in such a condition, if you want to directly reach them, the manufacturer may find it very difficult. So, it is better that they go through the intermediaries. And finally, the business buyers purchase may product items in one transaction. So, if they want to buy in one transaction, then the intermediary can understand that need of the buyer, and they can provide, but they can collect all the products from the manufacturer and pass it on to the buyer, right. So, all these things makes the intermediary or the indirect channel a very effective, very important channel partner in the B2B market, right. Because the simple reason, as I have said, that you cannot have all the resources to reach the customers, the market, and provide effective good service to them. So, if you go through the indirect route or the intermediaries are people who are close to, or at least closer than the manufacturer to the customer. So, they are better positioned to reach the customer, to understand their requirement and then kind of supply the product to them. So, all this makes channel a very important part of the story. And if you talk about B2B, where we deal with huge volumes of business and where the customer is a rational customer, the buyer is a rational buyer. So, in those markets, channel becomes a very important role, plays a very vital role, and selecting the right channel partner is a very critical job, right. So, with this I will wind up today's lecture and we will meet in the next lecture. Till then, take care. Thank you very much.